When people come to you, though, they expect this, and then they realize you're just human, and that the everyday decision to be courageous is just that, an everyday decision. Not every day do you wake up trying to be or want to be courageous. But sometimes it's just in your DNA. At this time, my family lived on the west side of Chicago. So 1245 North Water, I'll never forget it. And it was a very predominantly black middle-class community, and I just remember seeing kids outside all the time. We were on the street all the time playing in our front yard, on the porch, and so that's probably my fondest and greatest memory at about like 5 or 6 or so. My earliest memories, I guess, of being a black child was I attended Gray Elementary. And Gray Elementary was a diverse school. We actually went to the corner of our house and we took a bus up north somewhere to Gray Elementary. I don't even remember the exact address. And on our block, it was, like I said, pretty much all black people. But at Gray, it was, some of my best friends were Asians and whites and blacks. And so noticing that there was a difference in my school community and home community, I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. But my neighborhood was well taken care of, so I didn't notice that there were any issues. And although I think my family, was not rich, I didn't know we were poor either. I don't know at that time if I could define it. I just think I was aware that something was probably different, but not sure what that meant, because there was no way, again, to affirm. We didn't read the newspaper. Everything was really child-centered. Like now, you can talk to 10 and 11-year-olds about what's happening around the country, the things that our communities are experiencing, but that didn't happen back then. It was the adults had their conversations and the child, had their conversations. So you didn't know how to express any type of double consciousness that you may be aware of. Oh my gosh, yes. Oh yes. I think, and this is not an indictment on our parents or grandparents, because they had a very unique space that they had to walk through, and so many other things that they had to deal with that we don't have to deal with today. So I don't think they were afforded the luxury to have those conversations, because we didn't have the accessibility that we do now. We didn't have cell phones, so if something happened, you couldn't just relay that information. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have these open channels of communication that we do now. But I also felt very handicapped by that. And I felt like my progress in learning about what happens in our communities and how to be comfortable with being verbal in public about that was directly connected to not being aware and not engaged in that way as a child. And so I believe now the young kids are affirmed in a lot of ways, so they can be comfortable and they are aware and conscious about what's happening. And so I think we have to do that, and I love it. I have conversations with my children. I've never had it in my life with any adult until I was like over 30. I recently, for the second time, cut all my hair off because I wanted to start the natural process over again for the second time. So in that process, I have a 13-year-old who says, oh my gosh, she feels so empowered that I, her mother, cut her hair. That she goes and she cuts her hair. She doesn't want to relax her anymore. She starts her lock process. And so I have a 15-year-old and she's like, oh my gosh, you guys go ahead and do that. I'm gonna keep doing what I do. She comes to me literally just this weekend and says, Mom, I'm gonna start the natural hair process. It's a really big deal because at that age, I didn't have anybody saying to me, how, one, spiritual your hair journey is. In 2013, I started this Global Strategists Association organization. This whole idea about engaging the African diaspora in global citizenry started when I went away to school in Washington, D.C. for college. I ran into a professor who was doing a class on international relations. And when you go to city colleges, you go to any type of community college, you kind of don't know where to begin, where to start. There's so much to do and so many options. And I was a non-traditional student. I have been pretty much working my entire life. So I didn't go back to school until I was 26. And I had already been married and had children. And I was just like, and I was working full time. So I was like, what? I don't know what's going on. So I wound up graduating, moving to DC, going to school at George Washington University. And I found an entire community and city dedicated to foreign policy, national security. Of course, you have Congress, so you have people on the Hill working. But what I noticed when I lived there was that there was a lack of intentional engagement with Black people around this subject matter. If there was one person of color, they was always on the stage telling a tale of how a white person saved them from their war-torn country, which is a narrative I was so tired of. Why don't I see Black experts on your stage talking about anything outside of race and poverty? Because those are great conversations to have, and we have to keep pushing the dialogue on that. But we are more than that. In order for us to be at the table and seen in this particular space, there had to be an institution to rise up to create the platform. In our space, in the global space, you might have a think tanks, and there are hundreds of them, who decide on global policy and what foreign governments should do, including America. This is the way you should move. This is what's happening. But the people who design that are predominantly white, male, middle-aged, Ivy League educated, have no connection to the vast majority of the people on the ground who happen to be people of color, who are impacted by these global policies. We don't want to just be at a table. We want to write the narrative, because the narrative that you've been writing for 100, 200 plus years is not totally correct. I think what my mom has done is given me the courage to take some of that curiosity I have and channel it through a different posture, a posture that is beneficial to the people that I engage. My mom has been very courageous in working on the streets, doing a lot with community leaders, but also doing a lot with gang leaders. And she, of course, has to exemplify a lot of courage to go out there and engage in both of those communities. And she's found a way to harness it and bring those two together without ever compromising herself. And so I think my mom, above all, definitely has given me the courage to do what I do, but also do it with a lot of grace and a lot of ease.